came out of my sermon writing this week. Don't know exactly where this reference comes from, but it's all that I had in my mind as I was reading this week, thinking about this text. There was a commercial on television a couple of years ago. It may still be airing. Produced by Allstate. The ad featured an older lady named Beatrice and her two friends. This commercial opens with Beatrice standing in front of her living room wall. And affixed to that wall are pictures of cats and dogs and inspirational sayings and family photos. Beatrice's two friends are sitting on her couch in her living room taking in that presentation. Beatrice announces that she'll no longer be mailing out all of her vacation photos. Instead, she'll be posting them to her wall. She'll save a ton of time. And she's literally posted them to her offline living room wall. It's so quick, she says. It's just like my car insurance. I saved 15% in just 15 minutes. Now, at this point, one of Beatrice's friends interjects. I saved more than that in half the time. Beatrice turns to her friend. I unfriend you. Now with this, the friend stands up and says, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. It's one of my favorite commercials of all time. I still don't know why. But as I was reading the text for this week, I kept picturing John the Baptist and Jesus standing by the waters of the Jordan. And there John says to Jesus, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this is supposed to work. You should be baptizing me. In our reading this morning, Jesus responds, let it be. Let it be so now, so as to fulfill all that God requires, so as to make everything right. And John gives in. John obeys. He lowers his defenses. What follows is nothing less than an attaboy from God. Straight from heaven, in a very real and present way, the heavens open. The Spirit descends like a dove. And a voice from heaven announces, this is my Son, the Beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Now I can't even imagine what that scene was like. Can you? How it all unfolded. I can't even imagine. But in these short 4 verses, Matthew says quite a lot. We hear Jesus' first words, according to Matthew, let it be. The Spirit descends like a dove. God speaks too as the heavens open. A commissioning happens in today's reading, involving all 3 persons of the Trinity. This one is God's own Son. He's not just a prophet. He's not just a great teacher. This Jesus is divine. In fact, this Jesus is the one, the Messiah, the one they've been waiting for. it's interesting to me that so much follows John's unspoken consent. I've been thinking this week about all that God so often does through just a little obedience. What might God do with just a little yes? I've been thinking about all those times when I've stood in God's living room saying, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this is supposed to work. In my own life, you know this story. The bank wasn't supposed to fail. I wasn't supposed to lose that job. I wasn't supposed to move to Iowa. To start over again at this age, that's not how any of this is supposed to work. And then somewhere along the way, Jesus said, let it be. And then a little yes happened somewhere along the way. And throughout this journey, I've been learning what it means to follow, to trust and allow. And it's made all the difference. All the difference. Let it be, Jesus says. I came to Iowa. I went to seminary. I studied and I learned and I grew. I got married. I got graduated. We moved to Des Moines. We got a house and a dog. The whole 9 yards. And somewhere along the way, it all goes back to just a little yes. An unspoken consent. Since June, I've been making these weekly drives to Ely, Iowa. And I wouldn't trade them for anything. The rest of the Synod must think I'm nuts. Or incredibly pious, neither of which is exactly true. Let it be, Jesus says. Just a little obedience. What might God do with just a little openness? A little faith. I've come to realize that more often than not, I'm a victim of my own small thinking. And by that I mean I can talk myself out of a lot. Oh, that'll never work. Oh, that's too expensive. Oh, don't get too far ahead of yourself. And yet the nature of faith is something very different. Faith isn't something we rationalize. Faith isn't something that lends itself well to reason. Faith is about believing without seeing. It takes a little allowing. It takes a little yielding. A little openness. Some obedience and trust. What might God do with that little yes in your own life? Wow. I believe this text challenges each one of us to consider the possibility again that God is in fact God. Jesus might just know what he's doing. And what comes next on the other side of that little yes might be more amazing and more beautiful and more spectacular than any script we could have written for ourselves. Let it be, Jesus says. Go with me on this one. Trust me. What might God do with that in you? Forget about the past. You're free of that. Where might you and God go together from there? Now, our own small thinking isn't always a bad thing. In moderation, a little fear keeps us safe. A little doubt keeps us grounded. And then there's a point where that internal noise just becomes unhelpful. Too much of that kind of thinking can limit a theological imagination. What might God do this week in your own living with just a little consent, a little openness? I want to encourage you this week, whatever that thing is for you that has you saying, that's not how this works, that's not how any of this works. I want to encourage you this week, whatever that something is, to let it be. Let it be so now. Trust God in this Jesus. Go with him on this. Whatever that thing is, what might a little yes set into motion that you can't even imagine right now? I encourage you to let down your guard. See what happens. I encourage us all to forget about what we think we know about how anything works. Let it be, Jesus says. It's the nature of faith and following and discipleship. Amen.